Insider Week 2 preview, breaking down Virginia's football season. Andrew Ramspacher, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. Here we are at the Daily Progress studios as Virginia set to take on number 2 Oregon on Saturday at 3:30. Of course, the Hoos coming off of a 19-16 dramatic win in sloppy conditions last week over BYU. We'll get to that game first, and then we'll break down Oregon in a second segment and get the predictions later on. So, getting to the Cougar matchup and what transpired there. Virginia gets a bounce late, a tip ball, a tipped interception by Anthony Harris, who laterals to Henry Cooley. I think everybody was kind of holding their breath there when he chose the lateral, but Henry Cooley takes it 20-plus yards down to the 13-yard line, and Kevin Parks powers his way in from there on the next play, and Virginia takes the 19-16 lead with 2:36 remaining, and the defense holds on there at the end. So really the themes of that game, number 1, it got a break for once late, didn't get those breaks last year. And obviously, number 2, that defense was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I thought the defense, even though it was good last year, I thought this year the aggressive style of Jonathan Hood is starting to make a difference, forcing turnovers, capitalizing on the other team's mistakes. And I like the way that they harassed the BYU quarterback all night. And as you mentioned, after Parks scored the go-ahead touchdown, BYU's last 8 plays were all incomplete passes when they really needed to do something to get themselves back in contention to win. I think he completed only 13 out of 40 passes, and 50 of their 360 yards was on the last play of the game, which didn't really mean anything. So I really like the way that this defense is coming together.
Yeah, running in that nickel formation defensively, able to move Maurice Kennedy in there to do some different things. He led the team in tackles with 13. He kind of played that rover spot, linebacker slash DB, and really kind of shook things up for the defense. I thought it was a huge spark plug. As you mentioned, 362 yards gained by BYU, but a lot coming in that final play. The number kind of skewed. So Virginia defense definitely did the job. Anthony Harris gets National Defensive Player of the Week for his performance. 11 tackles, a block punt, that clutch interception, and a sack. Eli Harold, obviously, on the defensive line with a couple of sacks as well, did great around the edge. So defensively, I think graded out to definitely kind of probably an A grade. On the other side of the ball, there were some mixed results. Going against a BYU defense that returned a good majority of its squad from last year, including All-American linebacker Kyle Van Noy. BYU last year ranked 3rd in total defense, showed that it still has some talent left here for 2013. Really gave it to Virginia's offense. How do you assess Virginia's offense with the struggles, which we're talking about struggles here, didn't have a drive longer than 42 yards. Was that more on Virginia or more BYU?
I think a little of both. I think BYU's defense, especially the front seven, is really good. And I'll be interested to see how they play against Texas this week. But I think Watford coming back, starting for the first time, being on the sidelines for over a year, I think he showed a little rust, and I think he did have some jitters. It's going to be interesting to see if they move Steve Fairchild down to the sidelines to kind of help keep him calm on the sidelines before he goes back into games this week against Oregon. I thought they ran the ball a little better than I thought they would, really, and I'm interested to see if they can do that again this week. But I think it's a work in progress, and I think it's the kind of offense that should get better a little bit every week.
So heading into now this week, Virginia at 1-0, taking on 1-0, the powerful, mighty Oregon Ducks. We will break down that matchup here after this. Welcome back to the Cavalier Insider Preview. It's the Oregon edition. Virginia taking on the Mighty Ducks, number 2 in the country, one of the highest ranked teams ever to come to Scott Stadium, and they bring with it what Eli Harold called the best spread offense in the country. Tough to argue against that with the numbers they've been piling up here since even before Chip Kelly. The last couple of years under Michael Oddie, they did some really good things. So this is a well-oiled machine offensively, has a good defense as well, but really offense steals the headlines. We talked about how Virginia did against BYU's offense last week. BYU ran that hurry-up spread offense that Oregon will do, but Oregon's the experts at it. Yeah, BYU ran 93 plays, only generated 362 yards. Oregon will run a similar amount of plays, and chances are they're going to have a little bit more yardage totals. How tough is this offense to stop?
I think it's the speed that really is the thing that separates them from everybody else. They got playmakers at every skilled position, and he has so many weapons to choose from. But I think when they get the guys out in space, that's where the speed really shows. They want to make you tackle them out in space, which is so hard to do. Tenuta, it's going to be a real challenge to see what he can do. I know he's thinking up all kinds of different ways. I know he looked at the Stanford film to see how they shut him down. There are ways, although not many people have done it. Stanford was the only one last year that shut him down. But what I thought was interesting is that Thomas, they were wondering if he was big enough to be their featured back. He was last week. He ran the ball 18 times, I think half of those between tackles. But we're talking about a different level of competition. Nicholls State is, not very good on defense, not very big. So I think he'll struggle to run like that inside of tackles against Virginia.
Yeah, playing Nicholls State, obviously a foe from the FCS, the lower level. Did not have any chance at all going into that. Oregon made quick work with them, piled up a school record 772 yards of offense. I know Whitey Reed's a big Xbox guy. I don't think even he piles that up on his games. So
I hate video games.
but if he did, I don't know. If he loved video games, I don't think he could pile up that many yards. Just ridiculous numbers that the Ducks put up last week. And to be honest with you, it's really not. Yeah, it was a lot of yards, but I don't think anybody was really, really scratching their heads about it because they've been so good and produced similar numbers to this over the years. It's like, okay, another game for Oregon. So that's a very explosive offense. I think overshadowed is the play of their defense. This is a D that some people have the best corner combination in the country. They return all 4 starters from last year. The key for Virginia's offense to beat Oregon's defense really is tied into what we just talked about, is leveling out the Oregon offense, because Virginia's offensive goal is to stay on the field as long as possible, sustain drives, and keep that Oregon offense off the field. Will they be able to do it against the Ducks defense?
That's the big question. They were in 2 shootouts last year with Miami and Louisiana Tech, and won one, lost one. Should have won them both, actually. I don't know if they can do that with Oregon. I think one of the keys against Oregon is trying to control the line of scrimmage. I don't know if they can do that against this Oregon team. There's just so many veterans back and good defense, as you mentioned. I think they led the nation in turnovers last year, so it's going to be a challenge for Watford to be able to throw the ball against these guys, I think. And I think that's going to be one crucial thing, is he's got to be more accurate this week and not make any mistakes.
So will David Watford and company lead Virginia to what would be a unbelievable upset at Scott Stadium on Saturday? We'll give our predictions after this. Segment number 3, prediction time here on the Cavalier Insider. Week 2 preview, breaking down Virginia and Oregon. In the first segment, we talked about UVA's 19-16 squeaker win over BYU in Week 1. In Week 2, we broke down this particular matchup with the Mighty Ducks of Oregon coming in ranked number 2 in the country. Should be a big crowd at Scott Stadium at 3:30, I should say, on Saturday. And let's get the predictions. I guess I'll go first, and I'll kind of set the stage for you. But I think Oregon wins this one 41-17. The key to slowing down Oregon's offense, as you mentioned, as we talked about in segment number 2, is really what can your offense do to keep that offense off the field. And Virginia has not really didn't prove much last year about being a good running team. Spring game was not a good running team. Last week struggled running the football. So time possession, grinding out possessions, it just hasn't. I haven't seen it yet. So until we see some kind of consistency there, really can't trust this. And plus, Oregon's just too explosive. I think 41-17 is somewhat respectable, and I don't think Virginia gets totally blown out. But I think the spread's around 22, so that will be right around there, 41-17 result, which leads us to Jerry Ratcliffe, your prediction.
Yeah, I think I picked in the paper today. I can't remember the score. I think it was something like 44-24, something like that. But I agree. I think that would be respectable for Virginia. I think Oregon's going to score their points. It doesn't matter who you are, except maybe Stanford. But I think the same thing. I think the defense probably is going to struggle with the speed a little bit. They might be able to hold down, but I think the big turning point is going to be Virginia's offense. It's not going to be able to keep pace with that and sustain drives. So I think it's going to be a little lopsided for Oregon.
Yeah, put it this way, Virginia will not see a faster team all season. So certainly some valuable lessons will be learned on Saturday. I think it can only help them down the road getting this out of the way here in week number 2. So that will wrap it up for our preview, Cavalier Insider preview of Virginia and Oregon. Special thanks to Whiting Reed. Going tripod this week, no shakes, and things look good, at least from our end. And
Nobody asked me for my prediction.
yeah, well, let's get our, that's right, we forgot our celebrity picker, so I don't know if you want to whip that around.